Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan. Voice of the Eagle kami, di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, radyo, katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero sugo. Todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Lipad ka Blue Eagle, galing hiding at tigil.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo Sediaren, as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munchin' with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM.
3, 2, 1. What's poppin'? And welcome to Popcorn with Cholo Sediaren, your stop for all things pop, where we talk about all things pop culture from here in the Philippines to the rest of the globe. And welcome back. This is actually our second Red episode of the year, since we've just randomly had that one episode. Now we all ended up wearing red and talked about things that were red. But this time around, we're talking about Red Taylor's version and some other red-related things in pop culture right now. But before, of course, we begin the show, let's introduce our co-host for the day. Welcome back to our attorney, Selena Ablaza.
Hello.
Ganda in red, pang legally pink. legally red.
Legally pink
legally
adjacent.
Blonde. Yeah. Legally blonde adjacent. We also have, of course, Paula. Welcome back. And of course, our resident Twitter verified news reporter, Sir Summer Perns, now also known as KJ Pernell.
Short pa lang it's been a year since I was verified. I got the notice. That's
hashtag
fun,
na all.
Yeah. Something to celebrate, definitely.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Perns. And yun. Well, it's been quite a week for everyone, for sure. A week of emotions, a week of stunts that didn't necessarily like appeal to everyone. And, just all Taylor Swift on all the feeds and related to all other fandoms. Like, I've seen like K-pop and Taylor Swift. I think may F1 din at some point.
Yeah,
Lando
Ferrari.
Norris's birthday had 22 in it because he turned
Hideo
22.
Kojima just bought a copy of Taylor's album.
Correct. As they should.
As he should.
And yun, it's just really like been a Red week. But I guess before we get to the meat of the show, which will be about Red Taylor's version, which is, everyone's just like talking about it. And we can't, obviously in this show, she is my patron saint of productivity. And she is my muse, aside from the typical Carly Rae Jepsen, Iglesia ni Carly spazzing on this show. Let's talk about before we head on to Taylor's version of Red, let's talk about some pop culture news that went down on the same day or ever since the day. We now live in a time where it's before and after Red Taylor's version. So let's talk about the first thing, which is on the same day that the all too well 10-minute version short film was released. Our queen Britney Spears is finally free. Hashtag freed Britney.
Yes.
Britney is free. She was released from her conservatorship officially. Thank you to Matthew Rosengart,
Yes.
Yeah.
her lawyer, for like, and of course all the Britney stands out there for pushing the Free Britney movement. Shout out to them for making this happen, because without all the fans, you
Mhm.
know, supporting and pushing the Free Britney movement in every way that they can. Like, it's on Twitter, there's a podcast. Well, it did start from a podcast, diba? Yung Free
Mhm.
Britney movement.
Yeah.
But, you know, now we can see Britney just really being free about her thoughts on social media and not being controlled by the Spears family, who got
Mhm.
canceled na because of the whole Free Britney movement. So, I mean, it's just great, great news. I'm so happy for her. And now she's planning to have a third child, which is hopefully a girl, as she says. And she just got engaged. Also, so, you know, she deserves all that, and, you know, deserves all the rest and freedom, as she should. As a, you know, Britney's been working so much because of the whole conservatorship and not really enjoying her life since she started that 13 years ago, no?
Yeah.
14.
So, I mean, you know, Britney's turning 40 in December. And, you know, I guess life starts at 40 for Britney this time around, which is very apt and very like that's a nice, like, life begins at 40 with Britney, and I wish her the best. Any comments on hashtag freed Britney?
I have been a Britney stan. Like, Britney was the first pop song I ever like listened to after all of my nursery rhymes and crap. It was automatically Britney, and it has been Britney since then. And literally nobody deserves this freedom more than she does. And I hope it also shines more of a spotlight on, because conservatorship goes far beyond just Britney. It goes far beyond the celebrities that we know have conservatorships. So there's Amanda Bynes, of course,
Mhm.
and I forget. So this other like band that came after One Direction, na parang boy band din sila for the newer gen. Anyway, I forget their name, but I know they also have a conservatorship, and it affects so many senior citizens in the United States, where the children take the parents' land
Yeah.
and everything because they're under a conservatorship. So if it took Britney more than a decade to get rid of hers,
And
I
that's
can't
Britney.
I can't even imagine what it's like for people who don't have the resources, who don't have the media that Britney has had, thankfully, these last few years. So I hope what Britney has gone through shines more of a spotlight and provides victims of conservatorships a better chance to actually free themselves as well and feel what Britney does. And I hope that Britney does whatever the hell she wants from now on.
Yes.
If she wants to retire, you know what? Go for it. Like, she deserves to do whatever the heck she wants to do. So yeah, that's it for me.
All I ask is she posts whatever on social media, whatever. I want to see her happy because she
Me too.
deserves it. Talaga. I just want to see her happy. She cannot make new music, but as she shares with us how happy she is. Yun lang talaga, that's all I ask talaga of her, because seeing her go through all that, like, grabe, seeing her social media posts during this conservatorship na sobra, you could see the
The
hidden pain.
difference, no?
Yeah.
And now, grabe, you can see her glow up. She was so happy when she got engaged. Like, grabe, I feel like words can't express how happy I am to see her like this na. So, may she have a peaceful life na.
As she
And
deserves.
As she deserves.
Queen.
Yes.
And let's get some insight from our resident legal
Attorney.
advisor.
God. I don't know, and I don't know a lot about like U.S. conservatorship laws, but then it's really one of the things that you see how like how legal systems are sometimes used to really oppress people, and even people who are in the spotlight, like Britney, and she's somebody we all grew up with. So, like what Paula said, I really hope it sets a precedent for future decisions on conservatorships. Hopefully, it'll be easier for other people to also get out of like oppressive systems like that, especially young people. Because I mean, we said that Britney's turning 40, and yeah, life begins at 40, but how much time did she lose? Diba? She's never gonna get that back, no matter what amount of damages she's able to claim from her family. So I really hope that it sets a good precedent for future cases like this.
And I mean, it's just really crazy nga talaga what she had to go through, and the public had really had no idea about it until the Free Britney movement. Or some people did, or some we kind of knew it was happening in the late early 2000, late early 2000, like 2008 when it started, right?
Yeah.
Around that time. But that was the time na we kind of knew naman na Britney was going through a mental breakdown, but then that just spiraled from there
Yeah.
into
I mean, we
whatever.
didn't expect it to be this bad because we thought it was her family, diba? So parang you would think they would take care of her, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. So
And I mean, there are documentaries about this you can check out. There's the New York Times one, which really like put a conversation into this, and also there's a Netflix documentary called Britney versus Spears, and I think there's a Hulu documentary upcoming as well. I'm not too sure, but I know those are in the works. But there's also a movie with that came out of Netflix, which was I Care a Lot with Rosamund Pike, which is kind of telling then of how conservatorships can be abused by even people who aren't your family, right? They
Yeah.
can make a business out of it and everything. So, Brittany, we love you. This is not anything red related, but this is something that we deserve to talk about as well because, support, all out support. Syempre, after that whole ordeal, she deserves the world, and we're happy for her and her family as well. I mean, not that family, but like her kids and her fiance,
her fiance, yeah.
si Sam. So yun, we're happy for them, and let's just see. I also hope that Britney, in some sense, becomes an advocate for this. I mean, I guess in her next albums, should she decide to make music pa ulit, maybe in a few years, parang these experiences can be in a song. I'm not sure, but whatever she decides, it's up to her because she lives her life now as a free woman.
Yeah.
Yun. So that is Britney Spears being freed. And next on our red list, we have something that kind of made rounds on the internet in the Philippines around last weekend, I would say. And this is the Netflix pakulo for their latest blockbuster film, Red Notice, which apparently had the SM MOA Globe stolen, quote unquote, stolen and missing for like 30 minutes until everyone deciphered what it was gonna be. Yun, I mean, people had a lot of theories as to what it would be because IKEA is opening, and there were talks about it being converted into a big giant meatball, or also the Minions taking over, because in the Minions movie nga naman they do try to get the moon,
Landmarks.
right? And landmarks. I mean, and now this is a Red Notice thing because it's about heists, but I guess it's a pretty lukewarm reception in general na parang, okay, it made the rounds for like a few, maybe an hour or two, but then everyone just kind of like got over it
Yeah.
really quick. Just any passing thoughts on this before we head to our next
I hoped it was real for like a good hour or so. We were chatting with each other like I know this is a stunt, but like part of me wishes like it was real, because then at least something in the news would be not frustrating to watch. It's just weird.
Like, who would want to steal
Diba?
it?
Like, why would you steal it? How did they do it? All of that stuff.
Kasi nga daw,
But-
I can give you the world. So they literally gave the globe and got
Annoying. But yeah, it was just weird. Like, it was posted at a weird time at midnight.
Yeah.
Diba? So parang people were like half asleep and thinking it was real, and then because a lot of the news sites didn't label it as like a brand thing, or if they did, like it was super like minimal lang, the people kind of flew past it. So it was just strange, and it didn't build up to all of the like questions that people had at when it blew up. So yun. I also have not watched Red Notice, so I don't really know how it like completely relates to the thing. So it's not like Trece, which was a seamless, I think, transition for the stunt.
Yeah, and parang I think this opened up conversation about how media outlets as well
Oh
were to
gosh.
respond to such promotional material, because especially in this time of fake news and
Yeah.
people not being able to decipher what real or fake is. I mean, I saw Rappler and they had like parang they had something,
They had brand rap,
had
hashtag brand rap.
Pero
yeah, they had a brand hashtag. But syempre hindi mo naman babasahin din yung caption kahit nakalagay nga dun na brand something, right?
But they also labeled it as a developing story.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
diba, parang it presents itself as this like legitimate event that happened. So,
yeah, like
Yeah.
these kind of like yung mga ganong posts, it's still something we're trying to deal with sa media. Like we're still ang hirap eh. Like especially if we try to present it like how Rappler did. And kahit ano, even other outlets at that time eh, but the way they posted it was so misleading. For a moment talaga, I also wish it was true.
right?
But yun nga, eventually I just figured ay hindi. Pero yun nga, if, soon enough, NUJP, yung journalists, we released now, it's still yun nga, having posts na how we present sponsored ads like this, it's medyo questionable pa rin until now.
Mm-mm.
So yun. Pero like for me, that, I just, because it was late at night nung nangyari, I just enjoyed the memes that followed.
Yeah.
Because Dana Olvina, her brother Deo is such a great meme lord. Grabe the posts he made just like that. Na sininig na ako, it was Gru, it was a National Treasure event, it was the Minions, it was Aladdin trying to show Jasmine the
The world.
Like grabe, I couldn't believe how it was gonna happen. It was Josh asking Drake, "Where's the globe?"
That one was funny.
It was fun while it lasted, but I also haven't watched Red Notice. I have no plans to it. If it was trying to get people to watch, it didn't work for me.
I think the fact I have nothing to say says a lot. I didn't particularly care about it at all. So, like when I found out it was a stunt for Red Notice, parang, okay, that's it. Not gonna watch the movie either.
Yeah, so I mean, they're trying to market it as Netflix's biggest blockbuster ever, and they did say that it's their biggest movie to date, even with the numbers. But we're not too sure about how Netflix reveals those numbers at this point. But from globes, we go to multiverses as we talk about another red character, which is Spider-Man or Spider-Man. We do not know yet, or do we? I don't know. But let's talk about Spider-Man. No way we're gonna reveal
Two
Tobey
Spideys.
Maguire and Andrew Garfield in the new trailer of Spider-Man No Way Home, which was just recently released, showing not just one villain in Doc Ock, but also giving us a new reveal or a new look or closer looks to the Green Goblin, also Electro, a new look for Electro. Sandman is back. The Lizard is back, being punched by the Invisible Woman or the Invisible Man. Who knows? It might be the Invisible Man from Universal's Monsters universe at this point, because the multiverse is so infinite. But I mean, it's just a really big spider-sized elephant in the room. About Toby and Andrew, or the first two live action, or I mean, at least the first two American live adaptation Spider-Man, because there was
There's
a Japanese,
major cinematic.
Yeah, there was a Japanese Spider-Man TV show, so
There was also an American.
yun. So
TV
those
show
count,
before.
I guess, as Spider-Man who might appear in this Spider-Verse. Who knows, right? Pero yun, what are your thoughts on this epic trailer? Like, even though they did not show these two Spider-Man, parang it was like really like yes, give me this, give me that, and where everyone's just really hyped up, and even it's just behind everyone's minds na parang it's gonna happen, and how people really find all these small details watching second by second into trailers like this. Let's start with our Avenger in the house.
I don't know. I don't even know where to begin. I think the best part generally about the Spider-Man movies, the Spider-Man comics, aside of course from Peter and being a teenager and how that affects everything that he does, is the fact that all of the Spider-Man's villains are really good. Like I've yet to encounter like a generically bad Spider-Man villain. So all of them have relations to Peter as a person. So that's what makes them super unique to
And
him
they do not
especially.
know it's Peter for some point.
For some of
time.
them, yes, they don't. They all like contribute to each other's pain, like more than just physically, the emotional like stress and turmoil that these characters have to go through. They all affect each other whether they know it or not, and I think that's really cool. And how we're seeing all of these characters that we already know and love into the new world of the MCU is great. I mean, Alfred Molina, I hope I am related to him talaga. Like that's just my wish. I really hope that somewhere in our family trees like it intersects. He's wonderful. He has always been the best Spider-Man villain, and I'm so happy we get to see him in Thomas' version of Spider-Man as well. And of course Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, even though we didn't really see his face, just hearing his voice, his laughter in the first one even was chill inducing.
Tapos pala si James Franco yung laman, no?
But there's another, I don't know if it's another goblin, but there was another like person on
A glider, yeah.
the glider. So I don't know if that's, because I think that would be epic if James Franco was actually a part of this and nobody knew. Or Dane DeHaan.
Dane DeHaan, yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes,
miss
to
Dane
Dane
DeHaan,
DeHaan.
right? Oh my
Yes.
God, 2010's Tumblr and their Dane DeHaan obsession.
Oh God, yeah.
I miss Dane DeHaan. So I think that would be great, or maybe it's even Ned. I don't know, but I'm just really really excited. Electro finally looks good. Thank God.
Yes, that was such a good
Thank
comic.
God.
though. But that
So-
raised the question to us also kanina na parang, is it Andrews?
Is it a
elect-
variant?
Is it a variant? Because, with the Loki TV show, we were introduced with the concept of variants as well. I mean, also in the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse movie. So you never know where these people are coming from in this.
Exactly.
And who else might be showing up at this point, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get into the Spider-Verse characters as well. I think that would
Spider-Pig,
be
please.
amazing.
Spider-Ham pala. Spider-Ham.
And I'm interested to see the fight sequence as well between Peter and Strange. I think,
yeah.
hero versus hero things are always very interesting, and these two have like infinitely different types of power, so that's bound to be a cool thing to watch. I really have a lot to say, but that might take like the whole episode now. It's just awesome, and I love that the whole internet is excited about the same thing. Like that's always a fun communal experience, and I hope No Way Home gets released earlier than was originally slated here in the Philippines. I know it's a long shot, but
There is no way.
I mean, with people being generally upset, you never know. Like public opinion does tend to sway a lot of stuff. We don't know. I don't want to say it's like
As with our
completely
favorite
locked.
Star Wars movie.
Well,
Exactly.
If people
Which
could
we always
free
bring up.
Britney, let's fight for this.
Yeah. So, ayun. Because it's unfair. I mean, it's unfair. Like, the spoilers that we will all inevitably see online is bound to happen. So, that makes the viewing experiences for us here in the Philippines worse. So, yeah. Anyway.
Feeling ko kaya. If we actually push hard enough, the public could demand the
Yeah.
industry.
Mm-mm.
It's really possible because I look at a lot of the mga cinema hanash. A lot of people are begging the cinemas na please release it earlier. Just release it earlier. May time naman eh. There's time before MMFF. Please release it.
Yeah.
Ganun. I think it's possible. I try not to avoid spoilers of anything Marvel. Like even nung Shang-Chi and Black Widow.
Yeah.
I try to avoid. Pero this one, I just can't. I really can't. Like this is the only Marvel movie this year na I will watch every breakdown, watch every theorizing, but I still don't want to get spoiled. And I'm surprised na there's still so many questions that we don't know about this movie. Like, how big of a role is Strange here? Why is he fighting with Peter? It's not like will Toby and Andrew be here? Like, will they stay? Are they just a one-time thing? Ang daming ano eh. And that last part sa trailer, who is coming? Who else could be coming? Like, ang daming, it makes me so excited. Why do we have to wait so long? Gosh! Ayun. So, I'm preparing na my mute words on Twitter, which is hard for me because I have to work online, literally
Yeah.
on Twitter. So, I have to think of all the possible mute words na kailangan ko tapahimikin while waiting. So, it's frustration, but I'm excited.
Cell?
I was just gonna say, yeah, it's always so great when like a trailer drops on the internet, like collectively like loses its mind at the same time, and you have like a reason to just like mass send the trailer to a bunch of your friends so that you start talking about it. And I guess that's been a nice way to connect with people like over the pandemic and stuff. And it would be nice to watch it in the cinemas, but I don't know how I feel. My brother and I are joking about wearing a hazmat suit
Same.
in the cinema, specifically for Spider-Man.
I mean,
So
Perns and I did watch
yeah,
a cinematic
oh, yeah, you guys.
experience, and I guess if you do have the time to take an off day on a weekday and the first
Screening of the day.
screening of the day, there only literally there was only one person aside from me and Perns, so I think that should be a good indication of like what time to go. And I also had talks with other people. Depends ata on the mall talaga, because the first person I talked to about who watched the movie watched Dune on the first night and it was full. That was in Power Plant. And then another person I spoke with nung Saturday, last show daw, there were only 10 people. So that was in Fisher Mall as well. So I feel
think
like
it depends on the mall also.
very strategic, yes.
Yeah. Because like Power Plant has a lot of rich people with
Yeah.
nothing to do. So
And rich people who can probably risk their health.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Just to just say one more red thing, I'm really hoping for a Daredevil appearance.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to
Bring
put
us
out
Matt
there.
Murdock.
He is red.
Yes, red. So maybe.
Pero yun din, that's the question eh. There are 5 villains. Obviously, there is a 6th. Who will the 6th be? Will it be Vulture? Will it be Mysterio? Who knows? Maybe it's both. Maybe there's more than a Sinister 6. Maybe there's Sinister more than 2 Sinister 6s. Who knows?
Or maybe the Childish Gambino's character will finally become an actual.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
There's just so
Pala, no?
many possibilities.
Mga pala Donald's in this universe nga pala, no?
Yeah.
And I mean, in that Morbius trailer, they also released. It was referring to like all 3 Spider-Men as well. So everything's just like possible in the multiverse at this point, and we will have to wait and see until we see it for ourselves or get spoiled. Hopefully not, but hopefully not. And speaking of Mysterio and Jake Gyllenhaal,
Yun pala yung segue.
now, yun na nga eh. Only Taylor Swift can and Jake Gyllenhaal again for the second time. Not even Spider-Man can officially do it because Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio outed him as Spider-Man in that last movie, Far From Home. We are now on the heels of our discussion about Red, Taylor's version, which is dedicated generally to Jake Gyllenhaal, but not necessarily. I mean, this release isn't necessarily supposed to be about him. It just so happens that this whole album in 2012 was about him and her reeling from that experience. And now, as fans, we get to relive the Red era once again with a more mature Taylor, a Taylor who is in love with a golden color instead of burning red, a Taylor Swift that's just having fun, celebrating with her fans and celebrating her work and starting to own her work again. And this is the second in the Taylor's version re-recorded series, following Fearless, which was released in April. I guess first, let's get to talk about the original Red and our experiences with the album Red. I'm sure Cel will have. I'm already seeing Cel's reaction, trying to prepare what she's gonna say. And the fact that Paula is here with us is an indication as it is na Paula isn't necessarily the biggest Taylor Swift fan whenever I talk about Taylor Swift on the show and her current stuff. But Paula is here, and that probably means there's a reason because Red means something. But I guess let's start with myself because just to be honest, Red isn't necessarily my favorite Taylor Swift album. I've been saying this again and again. I'm a 1989 boy, Reputation, Folklore. Those are my eras of Taylor Swift talaga out of all the 10 albums currently. But Red, I really enjoyed because, this was really her first foray into experimenting with pop, which wasn't necessarily like cohesive, and she herself admits it. No, it was a parang fans loved it so much, but this was also the reason that 1989 was created in response to Red not winning a Grammy. So there are all these factors into the album Red. I definitely do love a lot of songs on this album, but personally I'm not like the biggest Red stan, but that's my history with Red. I just found like an Instagram post of mine from 2012 era that the first promo of We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, yung nasa grass si Taylor with that white polo or blouse and the parang red lipstick and black shorts. I did a really ugly drawing of that. Maybe I should repost it, but that's just my big memory of Red. And then Everything Has Changed is one of my favorites on that album. But generally, Red is a great album. I don't think naman may tapon in general because I'm biased. But that's my Red experience. Not particularly my favorite, but something I enjoy listening to nonetheless. And I think other people in the room might have like more feelings about Red than I do.
Since Cholo called me out kanina. Okay, I'll be honest. I was a Taylor Swift snob back in high school because I was an idiot back then. So this is like my public apology, I guess. I was the kind of person who like judged my classmates for being obsessed with You Belong With Me. Like during prom season, I had a seatmate who just kept singing it all the time, and I was irritated to no end. And I think that's why I never got into Taylor's music at that time. But Red is particularly special to me because it was the album that got me into Taylor Swift years later, like not when it was released. I got into it in college because I joined an org where people would read Taylor Swift songs like they were literary texts and like taking it apart line by line kind of thing. And they are, and that's what got me into it. Like I think it's a very pretentious entry into Taylor Swift's music, but then when I really sat down with Red and I started like really reading the lyrics, and I think the first song that really got me was Treacherous because she has that lyric where she says that all we are is skin and bone, trying to get along, forever going with the flow, but your friction. I had to lie down after that. I was like, how did she come up with that? And then it made me realize what I was missing out because I was a very judgmental high school student. So I'm so happy that the Red Taylor's version came out. And I have a lot of feelings about it, but I'll save it for later. But what I love about Taylor is how she's able to capture memory so well. Like she's my memory studies queen talaga. The fact that she talks about how memory is so insistent, and you can see it in the specificity in her lyrics, and the fact that she doesn't run out of ways to express like one feeling. So that's why I Red's particularly special to me because it really got me into Taylor Swift.
I guess I can go next because I have like the opposite journey that Sel had, where she was a Taylor snob and then fell in love with her. I was such a huge Taylor Swift fan.
The last time.
Yeah, from like high school all the way up to 1989. I think that was like really the last Taylor album that I listened to and really looked forward to. And then after that, I realize now that it's not Taylor that I don't like, it's the fan base. And this is what gets to me with a lot of things. It's what stops me from getting into K-pop. It's what stops me sometimes from being super into Star Wars as well. It's the fan base. I think they can get to be too much. I had a friend who
You mean the clown base? Because we are all clowns as Taylor does this.
No, it's not that. It's that some Swifties are really like so mean. As in my friend deactivated his Twitter because he's not the biggest Taylor fan. He was just questioning something about like a lyric in the song ata, and then these rabid fans came after him and yeah, anyway, bullied him to no end, and that annoys me. So that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I can't like get myself to really get into Taylor Swift anymore, because she takes over the internet when she does, and if you like say that you're not into her or anything like that, parang the fans get too rabid, and that's just not for me. But as a person and as like a lyricist, yeah, like she's very, like Sel mentions that she's very good like at painting memories and snapshots of the time. The way that I imagine her to be as a writer is she's like a musical writer. Everything that she writes sets like a story, sets a setting, and it's so very clearly in my head what she wants to visualize. And that's what musicals do to me. So that's why I absolutely love Red. I think out of all of her albums that I've listened to, it paints that story really, really well. I feel like you could make an entire musical out of Red alone. And
That's true. Very
right. That,
true.
especially All Too Well, which is the main reason why I'm here today. It is my favorite Taylor Swift song. Even when I was at my peak, I don't like Taylor Swift anymore. I would always go back to All Too Well because it's just so.
Because she remembers it all too well.
I remember the song all too well, and it's just a well-made song, and I think that's why Red is also like equally special to me. 1989 and Red, I think, are like my top two albums for her. So that's me.
For me, my top two is Speak Now and
So
Red. Like I look back on my like when I was listening to Taylor Swift's albums. Kasi back in high school, grabe, in an all-boys school, it's parang weird. It's very weird for you to hear na you like Taylor Swift. Pero this is for real. During lunch break, kasi we had a player in our classroom, we would play Speak Now and Red during lunch breaks, and we would listen to the songs. Kasi yun talaga yung ang ganda ng pakinggan. Like sure, we would play yung mga, we'd play Fall Out Boy, we'd play Rico Blanco. Pero I really remember we would listen to Red a lot. And to the point na, it came to the point na, the name of our prom was Starlight Rendezvous.
Wow.
And our theme song was Starlight. No, Starlight.
Such a high school thing.
It is sobra like you entered the venue, Starlight was playing. That's why that's what I remember a lot from Red. It takes me back to that time talaga. And that's what it still does for me. Like when I listen to these songs, it takes me to a moment na when I first heard these songs, like I'm experiencing memories na I'm remembering stuff na I never realized, oh nga pala, this happened to me, and I'm feeling things that, am I supposed to be feeling this? I've never experienced it, but how come I feel it so much? Ang sakit niya, it's so hopeful, makes me happy, it makes me wanna lie down and cry. It just it took me all over the place. And it does that again, hearing this new version, because Taylor's
Which
older
is
now.
30 songs long, 2
30
hours.
songs. Grabe. I sat down on a beanbag, just staring at the floor, listening to each song. And I was like, wow, I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm listening to this all over again. Listening to an older Taylor, looking back at this time. And she's giving more songs na are both as satisfying and as heart-wrenching na pakinggan. Like, how can an artist do this? It's so good to hear. Like, grabe, nakamangha
insane.
talaga. Yeah, insane is right. Insane is right. Like, how does she do it until now? Like, I'm in awe of her, like, as an artist talaga.
I mean, yun na nga. I think what's really perfect about the Taylor's versions, aside from the fact that she gets to own her work, which I guess it's a very complicated issue altogether, because she's Taylor Swift. She's able to do this, and she sets a precedent for a lot of artists to be able to fight for their rights as artists. But at the same time, it also opens up a conversation about how much artists should also feel about their ownership of their music on the business side, because I guess coming from a label perspective lang din, kasi when you look at this at the surface level, yeah, go Taylor, own your work, you deserve it, you wrote all of this, you made this. But at the same time, then there's also a lot of, I guess, hindi naman, not to be pro label, but there's also a lot of investment that goes into well, I guess, and this has developed over the years naman. Labels are now definitely much more open to different types of deals with artists, but definitely naman labels aren't the enemy point blank. It's she went through a very specific process of not owning her work. I mean, if that didn't happen to her, then we wouldn't be having Taylor's versions. But yun din may element din na syempre companies and managements own a percentage of your work because they also invest in it and trying to push you into becoming what you are. But now that Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift, that's where the conversation also begins and like continues pa. And I think it's an ongoing conversation because Universal Music also announced just after the popularity of Red Taylor's version na they're redoing a lot of their deals with the parang starting now to not allow for re-recordings because of Red Taylor's version's popularity and how Red Taylor's version and I guess even Fearless Taylor's version has already surpassed the original recordings on streaming. So, it's a whole big conversation that I think is still ongoing and should not just be taken as at the surface level na, oh, Taylor Swift, period. But, it's very complicated and there's a lot of work going into it. And this is also like something I posted on Twitter the other day because, we keep on putting Taylor and Beyonce in the pedestal na, oh, we have the same 24 hours as Taylor Swift or same 24 hours as Beyonce. But, they have a team behind them as well. They are brilliant as artists and I'm sure they're businesswomen in their own rights as well who lead the pack. But at the same time, I just want to put out there as well na it takes a village to really put the brilliant work of all these artists, whether they're Taylor Swift level or like indie level or DIY level, to put it out there and make people enjoy it. So just a shout out to everyone behind the scenes who really hustles hard as well, as hard as the people they work for and as hard as the people that we admire and listen to. End of rant. Thank you for attending my TED talk about labels and how they help artists. But yun na nga, it's a very wide conversation and not just what we see on Spotify and on with bite-sized information. But again, back to my point, I guess what's nice about Taylor's versions is that it works both ways for her in a sense na she has the hearts of all her fans who went through with this in the last how many years with that nostalgia factor, but at the same time it fuels her current image to the new generation and for people who did not necessarily look at Taylor Swift as a legit artist before and then now that it's back again gives them an opportunity to appreciate it further. And personally ganun din ako sa Red na syempre, it's not really my all-time favorite, but I get to appreciate it even more now. Like I did love All Too Well before, but this new version really like got me talaga more than that first one. Yeah, let's talk about some of the re-recordings. Like, how did you feel about the re-recorded tracks this time around for Red Taylor's version?
Well, as someone who didn't I'm trying to listen to it again just to see if my opinion has changed since I first listened to it. But someone who didn't really understand the point of Fearless, aside from, of course, the whole ownership of the songs thing, the Fearless Taylor's version, I didn't really see anything new in the way that she recorded them. There's, say what you will about, the original version and who owns it now, but the youth is what makes Fearless great. Because
yes,
the fact that she was singing it when she was a teenager and the songs are very much clearly written by a teenager makes it very endearing to hear. And there's something about a 30-year-old Taylor singing the songs from that album that doesn't really do it for me. I guess like as a fan of that era of Taylor Swift. although Red is a completely different story.
Mhm.
Red seems to grow even better now that
Uh-huh.
she's 30. The meanings of every single song from the original album seem to have gotten deeper. The maturity really reflects in her
Yeah.
voice and shows you the maturity in the writing even more, I think, as well. And that really caught me off guard when I first listened to it. I didn't expect to be that emotional listening. I knew I was going to be emotional to All Too Well, but I didn't think I was going to be that emotional um for Red, as in the song Red, listening to it now. So that speaks a lot about how mature, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because she shouldn't have gone through this, how mature her mindset was at the age of 21. Um, so, you know, it's great. There's a lot of added layers to every single song. And the new ones, of course, are fascinating to listen to. I have a gripe with just one song in the, which I was talking to Sal about earlier. But everything else, especially what song was this? Ronan.
Oh,
Ah,
yeah.
God, yeah.
Ronan.
If we're gonna talk about the new songs later, I really would love to talk about that. But yeah, I loved it, and I don't normally say that about new Taylor stuff.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. The maturity, Taylor's voice, even in Fearless, you can really see how, or hear rather, how much she matured, like aging like fine wine, that voice. And it really helped a lot of these re-recordings for sure. Personally lang nga, Paula is right. There are some songs that are just way better with the original. And yun na nga, going back briefly to the conversation earlier, regardless of what version you listen to, it's a win-win for Universal Music and Taylor Swift because I do believe she still gets royalties from the first
Yeah.
first ones anyway. But anyway, yun na nga, um, the new ones, especially the latter half of the original tracks, have such parang they're much more meaningful to listen to and sound way better with the maturity. Like for example, Everything Has Changed for me. It's one of the parang really good re-recordings on this track. Na parang wow, everything has changed. And parang the maturity of hearing young Ed and Taylor in the first one and then now listening to them, Ed is a dad, Ed is married, Taylor is, settled with her current boyfriend, Joe Alwyn. Parang it changes the meaning but still retains the old one. And it's like a multiverse of Taylor Swift. Um Taylor Swift happenings and it kind of is with how everything has been connected at this point. Pero yun nga, songs like 22, parang I can't, it's kind of weird listening to a almost 32-year-old person singing 22, about feeling 22. But that's that's kind of what some of the songs that I kind of like really enjoy the youth in the originals. But re-recording naman are still nice. But there's just something different about the youth nga of 22 and how she actually was 22 at the time she recorded it. But yeah, definitely the second part of the album, The Last Time, was also really good in this re-recording. Actually, basta yung second half is really something I really enjoyed. Yun, that's for me with the re-recordings. And it's just a small point. Girl at Home, the new version, is kind of like
Yes.
Char? I don't
So,
know. Like, what is that Tugs Tugs party version of Girl at Home? Cell and Prince.
Well, for me, I've always been a fan of Taylor Swift as a lyricist, first and foremost. And I think Red really encapsulates like the Swiftian songwriting ethos among all her albums, which is that what I love about Taylor Swift is that she really writes haunting really well. she writes there's a sense of like her being haunted by like past loves, which you can see like in the first three tracks. Because I think the first three tracks of Red are really my favorite. So State of Grace,
State of
Red, and
Grace.
Treacherous.
Yeah.
Treacherous is my favorite Taylor Swift song before it was usurped by The One. But if I start talking about The One, it'll take me an hour. So anyway, and it's really interesting. Like with her mature voice, it sounds like she was really haunted at those times, like when she was younger. But now it seems to be more of like a looking back at it.
Yeah.
Because Red's always given me the feeling of like it's like an echo demanding to be heard, right? So when it comes to her singing it like with her mature voice now, I know now that we know that she's in a better place in life. There's something also very reassuring about hearing it. And interestingly, like some of the bonus tracks, like the one that had a music video recently, I Bet You Think About Me. I like how it also like flips the trope of her always talking about being haunted by her ex-loves, right? This time it's like she's saying, I'm the one doing the haunting now. So I thought that was a really nice spin to it. And if you look at her latter works also like in 1989 and in Folklore, there seems to be also in her songwriting that she also talks about how she's Taylor Swift and now she's haunting all these guys that have broken her heart in the past. So I also really like that shift. And I think the bonus tracks were able to bring that out more.
That was the song I didn't like. Because she paints herself to be this like country bumpkin, poor kid, whereas Jake was the super rich person. And I'm like, girl, your dad is a stockbroker. And you grew up really rich. Like, can you like I understand because it's a song and it's the what the genre necessitates, but also you were a white girl in the South. Stop it.
He lived in a farm, a farm owned by
I think the line was with kitchen bills. That was the line that really annoyed me. I'm like, girl, are you serious? Anyway, sorry.
I will be honest, I never really listened to that song a lot. I will be honest. Like I was listening, is this am I in the vault tracks now? I was like, oh, it's not a vault track. Why wala. Pero
it is a vault track.
It's not. Girl at Home?
No, we're talking about
I bet you think about it.
Akala ko Girl at Home. But
I think Girl at Home was a bonus track before.
It was a bonus.
Yeah, but it does feel like a vault track now.
It felt like a vault.
Sounds different.
It sounds
from the
different.
original.
Yeah, it sounds different. I mean, I don't know what else I have to add because like in 2 hours, I just spent 2 hours listening, and then I just spent the next 40 minutes trying to write down my thoughts about what I felt. I just put them up on my IG story and Twitter, and I just had to let it all out para I could relax for the rest of the day. Well, I had a lot of emotions running around through each song. Like, let's go through my notes again. Like, I felt glad just sa first two tracks, and then naging hopeful when I was listening to Treacherous sa Stay, Stay, Stay. And then, talaga, where I heard that talagang she was mature was yung during Holy Ground, Lucky One. I really like Lucky One talaga when hearing the beats with her mature vocals. But siguro the ones that really hit me a lot was both versions of State of Grace. Like, I was listening to two different kinds of peacefulness.
Yes.
Two different kinds. I don't know how to explain it, pero two kinds of peacefulness. Yung talaga yung na-feel ko sa dalawang State of Grace. Yung All Too Well the original, it felt like a pre-game. Like, I knew there was something coming at the end pero it felt like a pre-game, pero I had goosebumps pa rin, like, oh, shucks, this is such a good song. How can it get any better? Surprise, it's about to get a lot better. Or worse, I don't know it. And ano pa ba? And I guess that from the original, same with Cell, like, my favorite was Treacherous, but rin yung Sad, Beautiful, Tragic then. Like, I don't know, like, siguro I had like that sad face when I was in high school lang. I don't know. In the new tracks, the one talagang what hit me the most, other than the 10-minute version, was yung kanta niya with Phoebe Bridgers, yung
that is really good.
I was like, she's talking about her life when she was 18 years old and how people looked at her, and now she was 22 back then.
And there's still that narrative,
diba?
Even until now.
And now I'm thinking, like, why am I... Parang na-affected ako. Like, I know what she's talking about, but I'm 25. Why do I feel that same emotion that she's going through? both what I don't know. Like I was
The
like
answer is boomers. Just kidding.
I think that was the only time I paused during my listening. Like shit, it made me reflect on like do do people think what do people think of me now with if they think this way that how Taylor and Phoebe had sung it right to me like shucks wala it made me pause a lot talaga in a way I think it hit me more than the 10-minute version. Maybe because I'm going through a lot of changes right now in my life
Mhm.
and I'm getting older na
Yeah.
and yun nga but yun nga
Shh, don't
it
mention.
really hit
Just kidding.
it just hurt it emotionally hit me from the vault tracks yun talaga yung tumama sa akin.
But you know that you're right with that. I mean, and especially parang it's a perfect collaborative opportunity with Phoebe Bridgers, who said, this is really like one of her dream collabs as well, and she said yes right away to collabing with Taylor Swift, and it works both ways. Na parang they're both benefiting from Taylor also getting the Phoebe crowd, and Phoebe getting some of the Taylor crowd into her music. And I think as female artists, especially the narrative really fits with that song, Nothing New. And it's a nice reflective song about how society treats women,
Yeah.
artists, young people. Yeah. So now we're at the vault. We're now entering the vault of Red, which will more or less be an all too well 10-minute version,
I just
elegant,
want to
extravagant.
see it go Ronan because it's very rare that I cry
Mhm.
with a song. That song had me. I couldn't continue listening to the album for a good hour after after I listened to Ronan, and it's unique to me in that out of the entire Jake Gyllenhaal story that is very clear in this album, this one was one of the few, or if the only, that wasn't about that time of her life. It was a song inspired by a story of someone else, diba? By an actual mom.
Mhm.
And she paints the pain. And I don't know if it hits me hard because I read about it, and it's about a kid dying of
Mhm.
pediatric cancer. And as someone who lost someone from pediatric cancer, I can't even begin to tell you how well she was able to. Oh my god, naiyak ako ulit just remembering the song. How well she was able to paint that picture of maybe the miracle was spending this time with a person for such a short time. And ayun nga, she's such a good lyricist and a good storyteller. And I was so happy that she told this mom's and subsequently this kid's story through such a painfully beautiful song. And it doesn't feel out of place from the album, even if the story isn't like cohesive to her events. But there's something that unites us all in pain, but also there's something really beautiful in being able to rise up from it, I guess, which is very Filipino sentiment. But yeah, it was, I guess, like I haven't heard much hype from it from the crowd because of course it is an all too well extravaganza, but I do think the song deserves a lot more attention because and the cause, of course, is pediatric cancer sucks more than regular cancer. So yeah.
And it's really beautiful nga na, aside from her own personal narratives, she does songs like this, like Ronan, which na nga isn't necessarily something that everyone is really talking about, but and I guess it already has surpassed the original Ronan at this point on streaming as well. So hearts out to everyone really feeling that they can relate to these experiences. And I think another vault track related to that is Forever Winter,
Oh, yeah,
because
Forever
it was a song that she made for a family friend or a friend who
Mhm.
passed away as well.
Yes.
So Yun, it's like, those stories that we never really got to hear so much, now get the light of day, that they deserve as well with this new re-release. Sel, you wanted to say something?
Oh, well, among the vault tracks, I think my answer for which my favorite is just really Mababaw. Because I really like Message in a Bottle.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I remember I saw a tweet that said it sounds like the ending song to a Barbie movie. And I was like, what's wrong with that? I was like, that's what makes it so great. And I guess it was just nice also to see something that was a very clear, like, sonically, the very clear sonic bridge to 1989. Like, it sounds like something that could have been on 1989. And even the fact that when she mentioned, like, she was sending her thoughts to someone in London, it's already like, was it Harry Styles? So I was like, oh man, my Taylor Swift conspiracy theorist brain was like at full blast when I was listening to that.
Yeah, we were discussing whether it was Tom Holland, Tom Hiddleston, or Harry Styles. Either way.
Must be Harry though.
I'm hoping for a Harry Styles collab on 1989.
I'm sure in 1989, out of all the
Manifesting.
exes, silang dalawa ni Joe Jonas yung pinaka, alam mo yun, game to do it. And there are already theories about a Joe Bros and Taylor Swift collab. Probably in Speak Now, I'm not too sure, but there have been hints already. But aside from that as well, I really like Message in a Bottle too. I really liked Babe, although it has been released under another artist before, and Better Man. Maganda rin siyang like to hear Taylor's actual versions of them.
I liked Run. I mean, I love Ed Sheeran. So
And that parang I think that one naman is special because it is the first song they wrote even before everything has changed. And I know Ed Sheeran has a special place in Paula's heart. Ayun, any last thoughts on these vault tracks, I guess, before we head to our all too well 10-minute version, more than 10-minute discussion? Who knows?
Ang masabi ko lang, when I like listening to a Message in a Bottle, I could imagine, you know what, this can get a choreography. I can dance to this song. I can imagine playing in a club. Like, I message agad yung my A-company friends, my former dance troupe, na yung Message in a Bottle, feel ko mga choreo natin to. Like, we can dance to this. And it's something though that can compete in RIB daw. So, yeah, we can hear it. It's a very, ganun talaga. And later that night, I saw my friend Mina TikTok na sumasayaw siya to Message in a Bottle. I was like, yeah, see, that's my point. That's exactly the kind of, vibe that this song gives me.
And you know what else the Taylor's version vault for Red sounds like? Apparently Hannah Montana. My friend Budi was listening to it daw, and then her dad was like, ano yung pinapakinggan mo, Hannah Montana? I was like, actually, it makes sense. These could be Hannah Montana songs. Like these parang cuts from Red, and it actually makes sense. They can be Hannah Montana songs, and we do love Hannah Montana. And of course, one of my favorite Taylor Swift cuts from Hannah Montana is Crazier. So, Crazier. Great song. There was a point where Hannah Montana and Taylor Swift were in one movie. And yeah, I guess that leaves us to the final song we will be talking about, which is All Too Well 10-minute version, Taylor's version from the vault. And it's supplementary, essential 14-minute long short film of All Too Well. Well, let me just begin again, just to reiterate that this version really just blew my mind for real. Like, All Too Well naman, I recognize it as one of one of Taylor Swift's greatest songs, no doubt. But this new version really invigorated more emotion and really gave you a bigger picture pa for more of what happened. And I was telling Paula this the other day. I really feel like it's Taylor Swift's Bohemian Rhapsody because it's 10 minutes long, and she went through all these it kind of had like an Evermore, parang prologue to Evermore in that writing as well. So wow, I was just really floored with All Too Well 10-minute version, and I didn't expect to like love it as much as I actually do. I think I spent a whole hour that day just listening to the 10-minute version again and again because it's like wow. Kayo guys.
It was the first song I listened to. Like immediately, like I just went to the 10-minute version of All Too Well because I really it is my favorite Taylor Swift song. And like Burns, I was like, how much better could this song possibly
Mhm.
get? Because it's already like perfect to me. And surprise, it got even better. And I mean, we all were super crushed when originally we with the lyric you call me up again just to break me like a promise, so casually cruel in the name of being honest. And then she had to write I'm blanking on it right now because like
You
I'm
kept
too
me like a
overwhelmed.
secret,
You
and I
kept me
kept
like a
you an
secret and
as
I
a
kept you
kept
like
oath.
an
you like
oath.
an oath. Diba? Parang, ma'am, I don't really have anything else to say
What a
about.
roller coaster! Like really,
Yeah,
like
ito na talaga, guys. Like, ito na yung musical ni Taylor Swift. Okay? It's painted like a better picture now. And the subsequent film, of course, which I don't really have a lot to say about, except that Sadie Sink is a much better actress than
she's
Millie
so
Bobby
good.
Brown.
Like the mannerisms of Taylor, she got so parang she did it so well. Na parang if you didn't know, you'd think it would be Taylor Swift, but as a redhead.
And you know, it's the renaissance of Dylan O'Brien. I'm glad that people are loving him once again. And Taylor looks really good as a redhead. That's really all I have to say about the film. I'm sure you guys have more feelings about it, but yeah, I'm happy this longer version exists. And I will be
Imagine having
memorizing
it
it.
in the vault for 10 years and keep that away from people. Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's me.
And I guess another lyric that personally ang nagustuhan kong part ng song na parang kasi 'di ba when you start you sing along because you know the words and then you're like ooh this part is new and then you just keep on like getting that oh wait I know this part again and then oh wait that's a new part again. One of my favorite lines is I'm not good at telling jokes but the punchline goes ano tawag yun? And I'm not
The
gonna
punchline goes,
um
you're not
I
the same age.
I grow older but your lovers stay the same age. Like wow, that punch. And especially in that Saturday Night Live performance,
Oh,
the way she looked at the camera and like and it was all red at that moment in the performance, like magic and insanity. And she's insane for it, period. Like, wow. And, you know, ang sakit din ng ibang parts sa parang, you know, some actress asked me what happened. That's what happened. You.
Oh my God, that line. As in, ang sakit. Like, it brought back memories I didn't even have. Alam mo yun? Parang, I was experiencing things I never really experienced. Grabe. What happened was you. Damn. Ayun.
literally all I wrote lang on my phone after I was listening. All I wrote, what do I think of this song? All I wrote was, oh my gosh. That's all I wrote. Oh my gosh. And to quote AG, this is what AG said about this song. She was mad when she wrote this song.
She
And
really
I was like,
was.
she really was. And like you can feel it in the way you hear the lyrics, you watch the movie, and then yun nga, the SNL performance, when you watch it with the film playing behind her, you can see it, the emotion she's bringing out. Like, oh my gosh. I don't
Meron
know
pa ring
how.
trauma at
The
some.
grabe. Like, grabe. Yun nga talaga. Even when the way she stares at the camera, hindi lang sa, pati yung sa Lovers Stay the Same Age, sa Casually Cruel, grabe. Each time she stares at the camera, it's like she's sending a message. Feel this. This is what I felt. I was hurting. I was really, really hurting. I still remember it. Like, and I felt it. Naramdaman ko siya. I I tried to avoid listening it lang tuloy-tuloy because I couldn't help but be more amazed talaga by how great the lyrics. I was listening to a story. It was very poetic. Ang sobrang makwento talaga. I was listening talaga to a story unfurl in my ears. And I watched the short film. I have to admit, it's a really nice. It's really good. It felt more short film than music video. Like parang the music just accompanied it lang nga eh for me. Like in my ano. And
It's so vivid. Like I'm
it's
sure majority of that really like happened.
yeah, that's what it convinced me. Like shit, this. I'm sure this is what happened. Lalo na that one long take in the middle of the
About
music.
washing dishes.
I was like shocked. I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Why is this happening? Grabe, this is gaslighting. The definition of gaslighting right here. And the way Dylan O'Brien demonstrated, I was like, oh my god, Jake, you messed up big time. What have you done? What did you do to this 19-year-old girl? Like, oh, why would you do that? Ah, my gosh. And it makes me happy na all the Taylor Swift fans are suddenly learning about color theory. Like, oh, you guys are so
About
cute.
the
The
refrigerator.
refrigerator, the way
um,
now when she leaves her apartment, she's leaving the cool light and going to the warm light. I was like, ah, yes, you guys are learning about colors, and it's true. The short film really discusses color theory really really well. You can see the transition ng warm going to suddenly how even see Sadie where she's starting to wear attires that she's not used to. She's wearing black. Her hair changes when she's lying on the bed. When she faces the left, she's all warm. It's all blue when she faces the other side. She's trying to recover, but she's still hurting. It's warm. When she goes out to sign her books, na she's draped na in all warm again. But the color of the book, it's still color blue because the memories are still there. Ang galing. It's a really good short film talaga, and it all came from Taylor's mind. She directed, she
directed
wrote it.
by,
Like
written
wow.
by, the
And
song is
I
about.
have to give a shout out to the cinematographer, si Rina. I researched, she is the cinematographer of Michelle Obama's documentary Becoming,
Wow.
and she was also the second unit DP ng Bohemian Rhapsody. So lahat ng location shots si Rina Yang yung nag-shoot nun. So ang galing.
Very apt again for
she got
Taylor's
it.
Bohemian
Very apt.
Rhapsody.
Nakuha niya. Wala, I was amazed. And yun nga, I just had to watch yung live niya because this was gonna be the very first time ma-perform yung live version ng 10-minute version. And yeah, good, very good. Very good, very good. The lighting was spectacular. So I might end up watching it again very soon.
Honestly, I just like every how many minutes I just like think about it and just play it. And sometimes it's like my timer na how much can I do in a 10-minute all too well? And the answer is not so much because I just end up jamming to it and feeling the emotions within the 10 minutes. But talking about visuals nga, what I also really appreciated seeing all the fan response to it as well is how it at the end of the day, and I'm sure this is like really parang intentional as they made this film, is how it reflected na nga to Taylor's current life when they put it side by side with the Lover music video, because Lover is about her being settled na nga and being so in love in the right way, and the way it has those parallels yung sa birthday niya sa Lover video may someone na with her instead of her just being alone and waiting for her lover to be with her, and then her in the bed, all those different parallels between All Too Well and Lover, and really showing na she's in a happy place now. That's just really like chilling na wow, it's great. I'm happy for her and that she's in this place already, because this putting out All Too Well 10-minute version, it's making a lot of those conversations as well online again, parang kawawa ka na ngayon Jake Gyllenhaal, blah blah blah, all that. But I don't think she's doing it at this point to spite him anymore, when a lot of the casual fans or casual listeners would kind of think that. And I did have a conversation with someone about it on Twitter na parang it's like reliving the Taylor Swift of old na she'd write about vindication and revenge and all that, when now it's really more about a different, I guess it just so happens that this song was about that time. And, I'm not sure what's going to happen from here. I'm sure Jake Gyllenhaal went on a retreat or something to avoid this whole thing. But Paula is showing some reactions to my statement. So can you please?
Again, goes back to my sentiment of Taylor Swift fans being very mean. I I understand the anger, of course, it's very real, diba?
Yeah.
But the way that people are going on about it, making it their life's mission to, make fun of this man, and subsequently every single one of Taylor's exes. Like Taylor Lautner couldn't even get engaged without being related back to Taylor Swift. And that upsets me because these people are living their own lives now, especially like people like Taylor Lautner who didn't do anything to Taylor Swift, and they're still constantly being referred back to her. And of course, the recent John Mayer issue of a fan sending him death threats. And I'm sure Jake Gyllenhaal receives the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing for me is that if it's true that Taylor doesn't mean to be vindictive with this album, and every subsequent album she'll put out that reflects the songs of her exes, about her exes rather, she should call off the dogs. That's me. She does have that responsibility to her fans to let them know that there's a line.
Mm-hmm.
This is my way of healing myself, and I think that's what she's doing, naman, which is like, of course, her right to do so. But if people go a step too far and really like intend to harm someone, and take a huge toll on people's mental health, I'm sure. I hate Jake Gyllenhaal, but like I'm sure his mental health right now isn't the best because of what's happening. Then she does have a responsibility to tell her fans to back off.
She does, yeah. And
So
in a more
that's-
explicit way, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the interview she had on Late Night, where she was like, she doesn't care about the feelings of the people that she writes about, is indicative to me that she is a little bit vindictive. Rightfully so, but she has the right to, the fans do not.
Yeah. And yun na nga, I guess that also brings it to this conversation, because all the re-recorded albums are more or less about these old stories being brought back into life and with newfound parang lenses pa, because it magnifies it once again. You're right in that aspect, and she hasn't really explicitly said it like, as a statement or something like that, because I don't know how she will do it, but you're right, she should do it. Yun. Sel.
Sorry.
Okay lang. I mean, that's why we're here also, to be talking about these things, right?
Speaking about like media meaning people being crucified by the media and fans, I kind of think also that it was the right time for her to release this also, because if she'd released this with the original album, she would have been crucified by the media so much as being a crazy person. So I think it also goes both ways na hopefully people don't attack her then for it. But yeah, I do agree that she should call off people who are kind of taking it way too much na naman now. Although of course we have to hold people accountable then for manipulating someone who was 20. And I think one thing that really shocked me when I was listening to All Too Well was that it only hit me now in retrospect. And it's kind of terrifying that it only hit a lot of us now that she went through this at 20. This is an insane thing for someone at 20 to go through. Like, I'm 27 now, and if that happened to me, I wouldn't know what to do either. Right? So imagine for somebody who saw someone who's in the spotlight. So that makes it so much worse. But I guess going back to the song itself, I've always had issues with Taylor Swift's sequencing of songs. Like sometimes her album feels weirdly sequenced, and one of the weirdest songs was that All Too Well in the original album was followed by 22. But now it makes so much sense because the album was about age gaps all along. And the fact that her 21st birthday was so horrible. So because turning 22 was like a really big thing for her. So I thought that was an interesting thing. Then it added a lot more context to that. And I also saw people who were saying that the 10-minute version took away from the original because it added too many details, which made it a lot less relatable. Because the original version though had just enough specificity for it to be personal, so that enough specificity for it to be personal, but also to be relatable to others. But for me, I think the best way to look at it is to see them as two different songs. Yeah. So one being the one that's a bit more relatable to people, but the 10-minute one is more of like It's actually very violent. So there was
Her
so much
diary
violence to
talaga.
that
It's really
song.
more like a diary.
Yeah. It was very specific and very insistent on her presence. And what I liked about it was first I really really love the lyric that said, "All's well that ends well, but I'm in a new hell every time you double cross my mind," because that's the wordplay was so good. And I also like the outro where she just keeps mentioning, I was there, and I remember it." Because we got a lot of insight from the video, which made me cry. As in, like, I had to sob for a while watching it. And I was like, I didn't even go through this. I don't know why I feel like I was there too. And parang gusto ko rin batuhin ng plato yung Jake Gyllenhaal standee dun sa video na yun. And like, I think it was also really scary having somebody tell you things like, it wasn't so bad for you. And the worst was really when he said, I don't even remember that. Like, I think that put so much context into her album, the fact that why she keeps saying that I remember these things and she keeps giving so many details, because there's a guy telling her, I don't even remember that. It can't be that bad if I don't remember it. Like, that was the implication of that. So even if I've personally never gone through anything like that, maybe like some similar experience of people telling you something wasn't as bad as you thought it was, but man, it really felt like a friend breaking down to you in real time. And parang even you as an audience, you were also there with her. And I don't know how she was able to do that. Like, I think that's one of the most interesting things about All Too Well. Like, you feel like you were there too.
And to add to that nga, parang the fact that she had a lyric that says it made her want to die kind of scared me na parang, oh my gosh, that must have like been super painful talaga to even write that in a song, right? And talk about it. Like, that's really something. Yun. This has become an all too well therapy session, I guess.
Truly though, like truly.
And a lot of people nga, regardless if they're casual listeners or, you know, Taylor Swift fans, at one point has posted something like that they feel validated about what they also felt because of being gaslighted or abused in some sense also. And seeing that film or hearing the song, in a sense, kind of like parang had that power on them na parang, you know what, you know, I also went through this and I recognize that, and you know, F whoever did that to me as well, right? So yun. I don't know how to wrap this up because it's become pretty like whoa at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's like it's been a week almost since it got released, and you know, I don't know where we go from here.
To
I mean,
Adele,
we're gonna
that's
have
where we go.
Adele. We're gonna have
Oh
Adele
my
in
god,
just
Adele. Oh my
shortly,
gosh. Ah!
another breakup album, which is 30, about her divorce, baby. Divorce. um but I guess before we head on to our final stretch of the show, what's next in the Taylor's version multiverse, which people are still not sure. I mean, she did release Wildest Dreams,
Yeah.
Taylor's version, and the music video for I Bet You Think About Me, which was beautifully directed by
Blake Lively.
Blake Lively, and DOP was Matthew. How do you pronounce that?
Matthew
Libatic.
Libatic. Yeah, Matthew
Ganda,
Libatic.
grabe. Like, I mean, it was just like a fun music video, and of course, not without Easter eggs.
Oh, yeah.
And there were seagulls on the mural in the bathroom, seagulls on the cake, pertaining to the seagulls she was wearing in the 1989 cover. But you know, she also released some tidbits for Speak Now,
Speak
with the
Now,
price
yeah.
of her signed albums being 2010 in purple. So who knows what happens, and only Taylor and her team know at this point. But I'm sure there will be yet another Taylor's version episode on the show for that, because we can't, only she knows, and the team never sleeps to keep on making the clowns rabid about it. So that ends, I guess, our Red Taylor's version recap, and also our Red red-related news. But before we end our show, as always, let's go to our pop stop or our pop culture recommendations for the week. I shall begin with mine. I would probably say red-related then Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten
yeah.
Rings. So good. Like, worth the hype. And wow.
Oh wait,
Like,
so you did watch it na? You watched
I
it
did.
na?
I told you, right?
Did you ba? Oh,
I
I forgot na.
did. But yeah, like super worth the hype. And I just really enjoyed every bit of it. Like, ang ganda ng chemistry, ang ganda ng comedy, ang ganda ng action.
Mhm.
Tony
Fight
Leung,
choreo.
Tony
very
Leung.
good.
Oh.
Simulu, everything was just like really, really good. And if you have the chance to watch it on a big screen, do it also.
But safely and
Yes, do it
responsibly.
safely. I have another thing, but I forget what it was. I guess Ted Lasso season 2. I'm in the middle of it.
Yay!
Well, if you do need a pick me up after emoting to Red Taylor's version, I guess
But it's also an emotional roller coaster of a season, though.
from Red to Ted. Let's ang ganda lang, parang sobrang when I want to feel good, especially that uh rainbow song. What's that? What She's a Rainbow. That needle drop was like absolutely fantastic. Um and speaking of absolutely fantastic and British things, my last recommendation, I guess, would be Doctor Who's current season called Flux. Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor is spectacular in this. And the story is just like classic Who for me, na putting all these elements together into like one giant story. I mean, I also really enjoyed naman the last 2 seasons of the 13th Doctor, but this one feels particularly special more so than the last two. So if you haven't gotten on the Doctor Who bandwagon at this point, which is very niche,
Yeah.
it still really is up to this day. But last night I was having a conversation with my friend who's also into Doctor Who, and I mean, funnily enough, Paula and I really met because of Doctor Who as well.
Yeah.
But it's I just got re-triggered of how much I love Doctor Who as a show and the wealth of its universe and the endless possibilities of the wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff that can happen on the show. And as it approaches its 60th anniversary, that is insane. And also in just in like 3 years time, more or less, it will be the 20th anniversary of the Revival series. So that is insane.
Are you serious?
2005 is when the Revival series started. So in 2025, it will have its 20th anniversary. So that's pretty crazy. Doctor Who, it's very particular, but once you get to discover it yourself and find your doctor, great stuff. Yeah, that's my recommendations for the week.
All right. Well, as always, I will recommend F1.
Yes, another red.
Yeah. I mean, Ferrari, Alpha, yeah, I guess. But this season just keeps getting better and better with every race. And we're headed into the last three for this season. Exciting stuff happening in F1. Retiring drivers. Our first Chinese driver on the grid as well. So a lot of interesting things. And the sport is crazy. If you want to get into F1 now is a really good time to get into it. I'll recommend two more things, and the next one is Sad Girl, adjacent to what we've been talking about this whole podcast. Since Taylor has been our week's worth of content, next week is undoubtedly the week of Adele, with 30 releasing on Friday. But she has her concert/interview with Oprah called One Night Only, which was released Monday here, Sunday in the States. And a lot of powerful stuff there as well. Oprah, of course, is amazing at interviews, and we learn a lot about Adele's personal life in such a genuine way, as only Adele can provide us with both pain and laughter. And she performed rather two songs from 30, aside from Easy on Me, two additional songs that were both insanely painful and again very telling of what she had to go through in the last few months. So yeah, go and watch slash listen to that. And Hawkeye, the Disney Plus series, is coming out in a few weeks as well. And with that, I'd really love to recommend what they're using as their promo materials actually for the series, which is My Life as a Weapon. It is undoubtedly one of the best. What's happening? Probably one of the best comics from the Marvel series that I've read. I'm normally a DC girl in terms of the comics, but My Life as a Weapon paints such a wonderful picture of this hero with a disability, and I'm so glad that they're pushing through with this narrative now in the MCU as well. So before you watch Hawkeye, I think this is a wonderful read to supplement your Arrow or Archer interests. So yeah, that's me.
Sige, I can go next. Yun nga, like Cholo mentioned earlier in the episode, got to watch sa sine, got to watch Dune in all its glory. And I'm really happy that was the first time in 21 months that I got to watch a movie. And grabe, Dune it was even more different seeing it on a big screen. So yeah, I will recommend that you guys see it in a cinema, as well as any other movie na darating. But again, I just want to exercise caution na if you guys do plan to watch the cinema, please be careful lang talaga. You don't have to wear face shields anymore, thankfully. But yun nga, make sure you guys are vaccinated. Always wear a face mask and bring alcohol with you. But yun nga, nothing will really beat the cinematic experience when you are watching the theater talaga. But yun nga, some recommendations. The newest season of Flash just premiered a few hours ago. I'll watch it tomorrow. It's a crossover episode, so I'm excited to see how it's gonna start. It's gonna take place of the new time slot ng Supergirl with just it completely wrapped na talaga. So thanks Melissa Benoist for your contribution. And yun nga, let's see what the new season of Flash will do. Some Survivor updates. Our Filipino representative, she's into the final 10 na, so she's gonna be in at least the jury. So for sure. So no matter what happens, she will have a role to play in who will be the champion of the season. So if you guys haven't watched yet, panoorin nyo na. But what ang recommend talaga for this is an animated short film. It's called Blush. It was written and directed by a Filipino, Joseph Mateo, it's about and dedicated to his wife. When you watch it, you will understand that why it's about his wife, their relationship together. It's very, very Filipino yung yung kwento niya. Even the animation is by Skydance and it's on Apple TV Plus. It's so pretty. It's so pretty talaga. Walang dialogue in this short film. It's no dialogue. It's only orchestral music, but it's so emotional. And I guess because as a Filipino and someone who experienced this sort of what the movie goes through, na feel ko siya, and it's very very sobrang ganda niya. And I highly recommend that people watch it. I would say it's a front runner sa Oscar short film animation race kasi it's really really beautiful. It amazes me na Pinoy ang gumawa na ito. Like I hope a lot of here in the Philippines we get to realize that. I think he did an interview with CNN before, and I hope more media outlets will get to interview him kasi it was really creatively made. The way it was written and animated na. It's so cute. It's parang Little Prince meets meets Up, some ganun yung feel niya. So yun, Blush.
And just to add, I guess like Apple TV Plus really has a lot of great content that people haven't really explored as much as like other streaming services. So if you do have a chance, I think it's a really good streaming service which has a lot of good originals. Like Ted Lasso also, and the morning show is also pretty good. And I know Defending Jacob, which Paula and Chris Evans, period. Uh, yun.
Shmigadoon was fun. Uh, yeah, that's a good
Oh, that's Apple
apple.
nga pala, no? Yeah, she went.
Yeah, Shmigadoon.
Since
Yeah.
Paula mentioned Adele, I just like quick kwento lang that when Adele released Easy on Me, I was on duty at the legal help desk and we got a query about divorce. So it was just like how very timely. Anyway, so yeah, it's Adele week this week. Since someone also mentioned 2010 Tumblr earlier, the Spring Awakening original Broadway cast
Oh,
did a
yeah.
reunion concert yesterday. There will be an HBO Max documentary coming out next year. But if you were with me, 2010 Tumblr, there are grainy recordings that are out on Twitter. So I've been watching them the way I watched the original Broadway cast bootleg in 144p back then. So if you're a fan of Jonathan Groff, John Gallagher Jr., the whole cast is back. And apparently I read
And Leah Michelle.
Liam Michelle, yeah. I'm a John Gallagher Jr. fan. So
Paula's face.
that's all I care about. And then I saw the tweets about the show. Apparently they did the whole show. So exciting stuff for the documentary. I'm a big, as in Spring Awakening was my introduction to being a Broadway musical fan. So super exciting stuff. But my more immediate
And
recommendation
please,
is
please do note that Cel is in a photo with Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
my only
Let's
my
bring it back
only
to that.
achievement in this lifetime. And my future employers, please look for me online. Sana yun na lang makita nila. So my only immediate recommendation is something I've been having a hard time getting people into. I watched the 3-season anime called Chihaya Furu. It's an unorthodox sports anime because the sport is an incredibly niche card game called Karuta. It's a card game based on traditional Japanese poetry. So the objective is there's a reader who reads the first verse and they have to get the card with the second verse first. So like that. So that's why I have a hard time getting people into it. But if you're interested in sports anime tropes like characters, exploring like the differences between talent and skill and struggling with like let's say like talented characters and those wondering that are they skilled enough for the game. If you like show, there's a really great shoujo love triangle in it, and if you're a fan of Japanese literature, why not, diba? And going back to Red, the title of the show, Chihaya Furu, comes from one of the poems in the 100 poems that are in the game, and it mentions swift gods and burning autumn red. So apparently those images were also present in ancient Japanese poetry, apparently. So there. So 3 seasons long, if anyone wants to give it a shot. And it'll be a good waiting thing while we wait for that Spring Awakening documentary to come out. So I miss musical theater and watching things live so much. So hopefully we get that documentary soon.
And speaking of documentaries, which is up in Cel and Paula's lane, they are having a 20th anniversary Harry Potter documentary. January din yun, tama?
Yeah,
January
on New Year's
1st.
New
Day.
Year, right? It's a
Happy
New
New
Year thing.
Year, and without J.K. Rowling as well.
The person that I will become when this documentary or special comes out. I apologize. I apologize sincerely. Like I will not be the same person. I'm so sorry.
Grabe.
It's
Just
it's
seeing their
Paula's
names
version
like
of
in the
Taylor's
same billing
version.
again. Okay. But again, trans lives matter, and that should be a message.
Harry Potter,
Constantly,
Potterhead's
yeah.
version.
Daniel Radcliffe's version.
Also,
yes,
my God,
100%.
20 years.
We're so old.
We're so
So
old.
old.
So
So
old.
old.
Rupert
Even if-
Grint has a child now.
Kung ano, napaalala ko dun, lumabas na ba article ko about that? I wrote about that today. Why wasn't it published yet?
Okay, we were also going to recommend Prince's article when it comes out.
Yes, 100%.
Yes. Go
Auto
and
RP.
check it out at the Philippine Star online. So I guess
Okay, na-publish na. Share ko bukas.
Game.
I guess we will probably have an episode on that as led by Paula because that will be her episode as she deserves. But yeah, that kind of wraps up our Red episode, Taylor's version, and many more Red things. Of course, thanks to Paula and Cel and Burns for being here. Of course, all our previous episodes of Popcorn are streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you stream your podcast. Of course, we are here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM every week as well. Thanks to the RK fam for always being there. And we will see you all next time for more popcorn, especially as we end the year. There'll be an Adele episode for sure. And just to wrap up our 2021 pop culture things. So those are what's coming in popcorn. And we will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo Sediaren, as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munch in with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM. Radyo-Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo